Okay, we are now joined by driver of the Kaz Garla, driver of the number 3 American Ethanol Chevrolet for Richard Children's Racing today. Kaz, talk about basically what the last couple days were like, finding out that you're driving today, and then preparation leading up for it.
Well, there wasn't as much preparation as I probably would have liked to make my Cup debut. I did just find out yesterday morning that I'd be behind the wheel of the three car. I knew the day before that they had said they wanted to bring me as a backup driver, which I thought was odd, but better to be prepared than not. Come to find out, it seemed like they had a feeling things were going to go this way. Unfortunately, Austin did test positive, but luckily his symptoms have been very mild, and Whitney and Ace have been symptom free. So really good to hear that. I hope to see him back in the car next week, but it certainly was an honor to get the call from Richard to fill in the three car today, and obviously it was a joy to drive. It was a lot of fun. Those Cup cars are a blast. There's so much power, which I really enjoyed. So I was really happy to be able to have a day and a good day and make everybody back at the shop, Richard, Austin, proud today.
Okay, we'll go to the media here for some questions. We'll kick it off with Jim Utter. Go ahead, Jim.
Congrats on your run, Kaz. Could you talk a little bit about what your approach was to this race? Number one, nobody had any experience, but you also, as you mentioned, got just notified like the day before. What was your kind of approach to try to run the race?
Well, we knew we had to start at the back due to the driver change, so I really took stage one to get comfortable in the car. I didn't push the issue. I was conservative in the braking zones, wasn't real aggressive on the restarts, just kind of hung around, made sure my Cup debut didn't end prematurely, and got comfortable out there. And by stage two, I was working up to it, making a little bit of headway forward, and by stage three, after the lightning delay, I kind of got a refresh. I got to look at some SMT data, which was really helpful because, of course, with the late notice, I wasn't able to run any laps in the simulator this week in the Cup car, so I didn't really know exactly what to expect. I got to overlay my laps with Chase's and Denny's and find a couple things that I could gain, and when we strapped back into the car, we moved forward from there. Dustin Alexander called a great race. We took tires right after that lightning delay, which I do think was the way to go, and that helped our track position and ultimately put us where we needed to be to capitalize on a great finish at the end.
And could you just describe the last restart a little bit and how you managed to finish where you did?
Yeah, I knew I was going to have to be aggressive and kind of make holes where I could because I knew that there were only a few rows separating me and the guys on tires. Tires have been so big here today, so I knew I had to hold position as best I could when I could. So I tried to be aggressive. A couple guys, I think, got together up ahead. I was able to get under a couple guys, move forward just a bit. So it was definitely intense. I probably wouldn't like to admit it, but on the last lap or two, my hands were cramping, my arms were cramping, my legs were cramping. These Cup races are no joke. They're really long, and these guys are some pretty incredible athletes. So I've certainly been working on my fitness the last couple of years, and I feel like I was in a decent spot for my Cup debut. But if I was going to start doing this every weekend, I think I could use to make a little more progress there. But it didn't seem like it affected our performance at the end, and I'm really glad for that.
Thanks, Kaz.
Okay, next up we'll go to Daniel McFadden. Go ahead, Daniel.
Hey, Kaz. So you make your Cup debut in the number 3 car at Daytona. When did the significance of that start to settle in on you, and what was those opening pace laps like for you? What was that like?
Well, as far as sinking in, I'll have to get back with you on that maybe sometime midweek. But the last 24 hours, a lot of things have moved very quickly, and it's certainly been overwhelming. But I did, as you said, I took my time on the grid and on the pace laps to really soak it in and understand the gravity of that moment. It's unbelievable to be racing in the Cup Series under any circumstances, but to do it in the number 3 car was just incredible. I drove the number 3 car in Bandoleros, Legend cars, late models. I took it even all the way up to the NASCAR K&N Pro Series because it was my dad's number. So the number 3 has held a really special place in my heart for my whole career. never in my wildest dreams would I have thought my Cup debut would come in it. But I'm so grateful to Richard and everybody, Richard Childress Racing, for believing in me and trusting me behind the wheel of one of their Cup cars, because that's their main business right there. So it was an honor to know that they trust me behind the wheel.
You got your first NASCAR win at Daytona here a few years ago. How does this experience compare to that?
That's a tough one. I mean, that was my first National Series win, and Daytona is Daytona, so that's always going to be really special. But I got to say, from an actual career perspective, I think this was a bigger day for me. Obviously, there were some circumstances that helped me win that Daytona truck race, but today we really were able to drive up there into the top 10 and finish 7th, which I never would have imagined. It's crazy to even be saying, but to me, I think that proved more a point than anything has previously in my career. And like I said, I enjoyed the race so much, and I hope to someday get a shot again in this series.
Okay, next up we'll go to Jeff from Empire Sports. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hi, Kaz. Thanks for joining us. Great run today. So there was a point in the race with about 15 to go. You had the lead. Of course, you had to come to pit road. But can you just describe what you were feeling as you were leading the field at Daytona?
I heard that. I couldn't tell necessarily that I was leading, but I did hear that everybody else had pitted and we were on a slightly different strategy. So that was pretty cool to get to lead some laps in my first Cup race. I wouldn't have thought that would be the case, but it definitely was a lot of fun. Like I said, Justin Alexander called an excellent strategy. I thought we made the right moves. There were a few other guys with us on that strategy. We weren't the only one, but I definitely think that it was the way to go. It helped me out, and for me personally, I like to be on attack, and being a rookie in this series, there was no doubt guys were pushing me around on restarts a little bit. So to put ourselves in position for most of the day to try to be on as good or better tires than the guys around us was a really good thing, and helped me from getting shoved around too much.
And just to follow up, you mentioned, Justin, you talked that this is obviously a tough era for anyone, with social distancing and whatnot, with crew chiefs anywhere. But what was it like working with Justin today for your first Cup race on less than 48 hours notice with this crew chief? What was it like working with Justin during this process?
It was excellent. Justin's a professional. He knows all of this stuff. He's been around a while, and he's a really smart guy. I actually got the chance to work with him last year for a handful of Xfinity races with RCR. So it was really good that he and I already had communication. The last race he and I had done was a top 5 on a road course in the Xfinity series. So he kind of understood my lingo and mine his. So for me, that was great. With so much discomfort coming into a weekend like this, so much happening around me, and so much pressure, to at least be able to work with somebody that I was somewhat familiar with and felt at home with, definitely helped make everything easier for me.
Thanks, Kaz. Great run today.
Thanks.
Next up we'll go to Mark Garrow from PRN. Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you. Congratulations, Kaz, on a great run. Was this beyond your expectations, the finish and the run? And if so, how much more above your expectations was it?
About 23 positions, I think it is. I was hoping for a top 30. So this is certainly far beyond my wildest dreams for this race. I just wanted to complete the laps. Going into the race, I thought if I could just complete all the laps, I felt like I could get a top 30. And that was what I was looking to do. So really my mentality never changed throughout the race. I still wanted to complete all the laps. I wanted to minimize mistakes, and I feel like we were able to do that. Our pit stops were excellent. Our time on and off pit road was really good. I felt like we were able to capitalize on new tires, clean air, make up some ground. Felt like we just kind of checked all the boxes that I was hoping to check, and that led us to a really good finish. So really proud of everybody on the team that was part of it and helped make that happen. Proud to have American Ethanol on the car. They're iconic colors. They're really good for our economy and our environment. So to be in their car with the number 3 on the side was just crazy, and to put it in the top 10, I'm really happy about that, and hope that it gave Austin something to cheer for from home.
I've heard other younger drivers talk about their welcome to cup racing moment when they were on the track and went like, holy smokes, there just went Jeff Gordon, or I'm racing with Rusty Wallace, or whatever the case may be. Did you have that kind of moment today where you went like, holy mackerel, I'm racing with so-and-so or some of these top guys?
It was, for me growing up, my favorite driver and idol had always been Jimmy Johnson. I really became a NASCAR fan in the midst of his 5 championships in a row, so I've always looked up to him. I thought coming into this year I'd never get a chance to race against him before he retired. So already going into this race, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world just to know that he'd be on the track at the same time as me. And of course, because of Austin's run last weekend in Michigan, the car was scored as starting P10, even though we had to drop to the back. So we did the pace laps in 10th. And I think Jimmy was 11th or 12th or something. So my moment was in the pace laps, looking in the mirror and seeing that 48, thinking that was the coolest thing ever. Of course, it was bittersweet because I knew we had to drop to the back, and I didn't think we'd be back up there at any point in the race. I thought it was a long shot, but come to find out, we actually finished 3 spots even better than we ran on the pace lap, so that was pretty cool. Still didn't beat Jimmy. I wish. That would have been really cool, but I could see him. That's great enough.
Okay, next up we'll go to Zach Sterlino. Go ahead, Zach.
Kaz, congrats on the run today. The pitch strategy, can you run me through exactly what led to where you ended up in the pitch strategy and that last stop? Did you guys end up just getting fuel, or what led to that strategy there?
Yeah, so the first 2 stages, we flipped the stages, we short pitted them. It got us a little bit of track position for the start of each of the following stages, but we did have a couple more laps on our tires, so we would kind of slip back. We seemed to level off about 20th, 22nd before I got a chance to look at the SMT data during the lightning break. But then when we did resume after the lightning, we decided to come down pit road right under that initial caution, get 4 tires, and it was a great move because we restarted, I think, close to, if not as good as we were running before the pitting, and now we had 4 stickers, and I made a bold move 3 wide on the outside into 1. I don't really know what I was thinking, but it seemed to work, and I was really aggressive on that restart. I think I got from like 20th to 12th or something like that, passing guys that were on older tires. Then, of course, they all had to come to pit road. We were able to run a little bit longer. We led those laps because we were leading of the cars on our strategy, and then we ended up pitting under green there and coming back out, I think, around 15th or so. But again, on newer tires than the guys around us because they had pitted before us, and we were able to drive back up to 12th, I want to say, somewhere around there. Stayed out on that very last restart, restarted 9th, and got aggressive, got a couple more of them in front of us.
That said, how much of an advantage was it for you to have run Road America last week, had that top 5 run there? Did you feel any fresher than had you not had that race last week?
Yes, probably. To tell you the truth, here's the biggest advantage for running Road America is I don't know if I would have gotten this opportunity without that. Last weekend we got a top 5 in the Xfinity Series, and that was driving for RCR. So I do think that helped their perception of me on a road course going into this weekend and their faith in me. We stayed out last weekend on slick tires while it was raining. The strategy came back to us. It evened out, leveled out by the end. But I think the team was really pleased that I was able to keep it on the track for them and not make any crazy moves. So I think all that combined kind of led to their comfort with putting me in this car. They didn't think that I was going to tear it up or do anything wild with it. So that's how I came into the race, was just with that mentality, and it panned out.
Thanks, and congrats again.
Thank you.
Next up we'll go to Steven Toronto. Go ahead, Steven.
As with your run today, you've only been running a handful of races this season, and I think you've said in the past that you'd like to work towards something more full time. How does having a 7th place finish today help toward that goal?
I don't know how it's going to help. I really hope that it does, though. I'd love to find myself in a ride full time. I do think that being able to race every weekend does make you better. You learn so much more. You're so much fresher when you get into the car. And so I'm glad I raced last weekend. I felt like I wasn't at any disadvantage to anyone coming in to this weekend. other than, of course, it being my first time in a Cup car, but at least I had raced last weekend. It'd be a huge advantage for me to be able to run full time. I would love to be able to run and chase an Xfinity Series championship with them. And certainly the ultimate goal someday in the future is to make it to racing on Sundays every weekend. So hopefully you'll see me back here on a Sunday someday in the future.
Thank you. Good job today.
Thanks.
Okay, next up we'll go to Marty. Go ahead, Marty.
Hey, Kaz, congratulations on an amazing Cup debut. How important was the heat playing an important factor in? And during the lightning delay, were you able to cool down and possibly rehydrate during that?
I hate to admit how much the lightning delay probably did help me kind of reset, refresh. These Cup cars are hot. They're physical. Road courses are physical in general, and these races are long. So it's the real deal out there for sure. And you're racing guys that are really, really good. So from a mental and physical standpoint, you are really extending yourself as much as possible. But on top of that, it wasn't my interior of the car. Austin's a couple inches shorter than I am, so the pedals were too close to me. I couldn't breathe all the way in the seat because the ribs are a little bit tight. Just a couple details here and there that made the car. It was drivable. It was okay, but certainly all the little details weren't where I would have them if it were a car fitted for me. So that probably added to my fatigue. But certainly in that last stretch of the race after the lightning, I was running on pure adrenaline. So I did, other than the cramping like I talked about, I wasn't really feeling any effects until cautions or after the race that it hit me how much I had drained myself in this race.
Do you plan on being on backup again next week in case Austin can't race at the Dover doubleheader?
I don't know about that. I know that AJ Allmendinger is typically the backup driver for the Richard Childress Racing Cup program. But of course, this weekend, due to the rules, he wouldn't have been able to run today since he ran yesterday in the Xfinity Series. So I don't really know. I haven't heard, but I certainly will pick up any call Richard has and do whatever he'd like. It was an amazing experience getting to run this weekend, but we certainly all hope that Austin's back in the car and competing again next weekend. Luckily, he's got that win, so he's locked into the playoffs. That's a really, really good thing for the 3 team. And hopefully he'll be out there at the doubleheaders next weekend at Dover.
Appreciate your time. Congratulations on a great debut.
Thank you.
All right, Kaz, thank you for your time again, and to echo his thoughts, and congrats on the finish today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.